Yo, this is day 8 of ship season, and today I'm gonna show you the exact workflow that made our podcast go from, on average, 25 to 40 views per episode to 500, 700, and 1,000 views within the span of 3 weeks. This small change made a huge difference and made us grow on YouTube with 474% over the last 28 days, which is insane. If we look at the analytics of this video, for example, this is when I implemented this small change. The first few days, nothing was really happening. Video was performing on average. And then suddenly I made the change and look what happened. Boom, the views skyrocketed. So you might already have guessed what I'm going to show you by the thumbnail you just clicked on or the title, but indeed, I'm going to show you the exact process of how a small change in thumbnail can have such a huge impact on your numbers on YouTube, and how I made the change that actually brought growth and impact on my channel. Here you see the thumbnails, how they looked before. And this is how to look after this system. So I'll take you through the exact workflow that we use and how I figured out what design I want, how I created that design, and how I then turned it into a Claude skill so I can reproduce this and I don't have to guess anymore. And it's now automated. So the moment I click export, by the time the video is exported, the thumbnails are ready. That's how easy it is. I do all of this with a Claude skill that I've called Tombernail. You get where the name comes from. The problem is that when you ask AI to generate a thumbnail, many times AI just drifts away, creates crazy things, uses the wrong faces, and just does random shit. AI image tools generate good backgrounds, but once you ask it to do something with a face, 9 out of 10 times it literally just totally regenerates the face, and you don't want that for a thumbnail. How do we get from the old thumbnails to the new thumbnails? I actually started thinking about this when my friend Matt told me that our thumbnails were quite average and didn't really perceive as high production quality. And he was right. He was totally right. And that's when I started thinking, okay, how can we improve this thumbnail? So I thought about what podcast is our inspiration and what podcast actually has the viewer base that we want to attract. And that is the All In podcast. And that's basically how our podcast started. We were inspired by the All In podcast. Me, Ben, and Luca, we listened to the All In podcast every weekend when we were together in Bulgaria. So that's what I did. I took a thumbnail from the All In podcast, and this is the one, took a screenshot on YouTube, and then recreated this in Figma. So I basically cut out our faces, I put a background, I put a little logo, and I put a title. This is all just in Figma. And then I said to ChatGPT, can you make this better? Take this inspiration, make it better, add a bit of gradient, and put it high quality. And boom, this is what came out of it. So now I had my example thumbnail, which I can always reference for creating a next thumbnail. That's how it started. Then I went to reproduce the older thumbnails, so they're all on brand and they all look similar, right? You can see they are now all correct, but our old videos have all way less views than our new videos. And this is just because the thumbnail attracts the viewer to click on it. And if you don't get clicks, you won't get views. What I also learned is the thumbnail and the title should go hand in hand. So the thumbnail shouldn't repeat what the title says. They should not be exact copies. So for example, if the title is Codex 8 Claude Code, Stripe launched the AI bank and SpaceX to 7.5 trillion, then the thumbnail should actually say a totally different thing that's also being discussed in the video. So you don't repeat things and you have extra touch points to attract the viewer's attention and to see if the viewer actually want to watch it. If you want to take it a step further, you can experiment with 3 different titles and 3 different thumbnails that go hand in hand. And then you can do an A/B test. I'm going to keep it simple on this one, and I'm going to explain to you the workflow, how it works. We record in Riverside. By export the transcript, I activate my thumbnail skill, and it's going to create prompts for generating these thumbnails. Then I take those 2 prompts, not just 1, 2 prompts, and I use Codex for the OpenAI Image 2 model, which is currently the best model out there. With Nano Banana, we had serious difficulties creating our thumbnails, and that was the previous thumbnails. Now with Image 2, it's just so much better. Step 1 is the analysis. The skill figures out what's the hook tension that we can put into the title and the thumbnail. It's thinking what's the pain, solution, and curiosity gap here. The title and the thumbnail split, it suggests a title and it suggests thumbnails. So it does that, it suggests me 3 titles and 3 thumbnails. I then either pick the best or go and generate them all. And as a last one, I have three different skills that kind of do the same, right? Three thumbnail skills. One is the God Mode Pod episode thumbnail. The second one is the God Mode Pod segment thumbnail. And the third one is basically this YouTube channel that you're watching now. So that's three different styles, one skill. So the skill knows how the thumbnail should be structured for each of those videos. The output is simple. You have a concept title, you have the variations, and you have the emotional direction. A thumbnail exists out of two layers, so two prompts. First, we generate the base layer. This is the background, which includes some logos, maybe some cinematic imaging, the dark backdrop, faded labels, topic logos maybe, and the word marks or episode titles. What does the base layer not include? No faces, no title text, and no logos, only placeholders. Then the step 2 is we put them all together. So that's when I attach the base image into my Codex prompt. I attach the faces, the reference photos, which are screenshots from our episode or screenshots that I'm gonna make now, like this, and then a 2-line title, as short as possible, but the skill knows this. And very important that we reference preserve the base exactly. So the base image has to be preserved, but also the face has to be preserved. Don't regenerate the face. Why 2 steps? Because if we do it the old way, it's gonna regenerate faces, for sure. If you just give it a prompt and 3 faces, it's gonna regenerate it. Secondly, public figure faces get blocked. Like, for example, if you want to use Naval or Lex or Joe Rogan, it's going to get blocked. And that's not possible. So if you want to use one of those public faces, not all of them get blocked. I've made images with Sam Altman, with Tim Cook. They don't get blocked. But even if your images get blocked, you can always export the base layer and then add in the faces or whatever with Figma yourself. What's the benefit of 2 steps? Step 1, generate a great background. No faces, no risk. So then you already have the background, and then you can always reprompt step 2, but you have the background, so there's no risk and you can play again and again if you want to. Step 2 then adds the real reference photos onto the locked canvas, and the identity gets preserved. The face doesn't get regenerated, the identity gets preserved, which gives you the best of both worlds, the AI scene plus the real faces. What's very important to avoid this face drift or regenerating the faces is the identity preservation. So basically within the prompt it says, treat these faces as cutouts, do not stylize or beautify. If the model cannot preserve the identity, the prompt instructed to leave the area blank rather than invent a face. As I already mentioned, my Tombernail skill has 3 outputs. But there's these little changes that I created within the different types of videos that we publish to have some visual variation so that the viewer can also know what video they're clicking on. The prompt, so the base layer prompt is for the background, and then the second layer is the composition prompt where we put the faces on top of the base layer. You can steal this by commenting under this video and I'll share with you the whole system. You'll have to fine tune it yourself, of course, otherwise we're gonna have all the same thumbnails. But I think you could also just say to Claude Code, hey, I've learned that I need to produce my thumbnails in 2 steps instead of 1. Here is my style, here is what I want, here is an example thumbnail, how I want my thumbnails to look like, and then you can create your own skill. Honestly, it's better to create your own skills because then it's really you and then it represents really your channel. This was Ship Season Day 8. 30 builds in 30 days. Today we shipped the workflow, a workflow that made my life so much easier to publish because I hated the thumbnail part. After a long time of editing, I always hated to come up and figure out, get the thumbnail and reprompt Nano Banana 5 times and it's just a waste of time. But now, thanks to this skill, I can go from transcript to thumbnail and good title and that actually get clicks and that actually gets views in no time. I love it. I love this skill, so I'm happy to share this with you now. This was day 8 of Ship Season, and I'll see you later. Bye!